That being said, I will call the Port of Hood River Foundation meeting order. And consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion items. Ms. Goss. Take it away, my dear.
Right. So at the last foundation meeting, it was discussed that we needed to, the foundation recommended looking at creating a mission statement specific to the waterfront recreation arm of the foundation, in order to, as a precursor to moving forward with the license plate project. So we had clear vision and marketability. Commissioner Gehring and I had a kind of a stakeholder meeting. We reached out to people in the community. They utilize the waterfront recreational spaces. They run programs. They have good eyes on what kind of are the pinch points that they're seeing down there with their clients, the people that use their program, what's working, what's not, what improvements would feel like the most beneficial for the community, both locals and tourists alike. And through that conversation, we came up with projects, and we also worked on kind of curating a mission statement that would allow us to take on projects that the community felt was needed and that the foundation wanted to do, whether it was for safety or beauty. So the curated mission statement that we came up with was: the Port of Hood River Foundation is dedicated to safeguarding the Port of Hood River's waterfront properties. Through funding community-initiated projects, we strive to improve public spaces by adding beauty, increasing safety measures, improving accessibility, and continuing to develop recreational opportunities. So that is the mission statement that we kind of came up with, that covered all of the possible projects, as well as tried to be very clear that this was Port of Hood River owned properties, so that people were not confused with the waterfront park. There was some clarity needed there.
I just have one question.
Yes.
Is it, because I know that there's discussion about the terminal building and public-private partnerships on airport properties. Do we want to say waterfront properties or just Port of Hood River property? To just open it up in the future for potentials.
Yes. So
Earmarking different parts of the
foundation.
Yeah.
So I
were tasked
yes,
with the waterfront.
specific the waterfront.
Tour was looking into the airport side of it.
Okay.
However, I think this mission statement could very easily be kind of an umbrella statement that worked for both, well, for any port property, if the foundation chose to move forward with that or adopted in that sense.
I think it's an outstanding mission statement for the waterfront. I don't know that it is as suitable as a universal statement, due to a few caveats. One, the note of community initiated, whereas other things the port may do may not be grassroots initiated, may be port initiated. And the other is the point about developing recreational opportunities is particularly salient to the waterfront, but doesn't necessarily speak to the port's economic development prerogatives. So I guess I am very much in support of this as being a mission statement for
The waterfront side.
the waterfront. I think it's great for that. And I would move that we adopt it.
I'd like to ask a couple more questions.
Yes, sir.
This is from ignorance. So if we adopted this and we selected a project to go do that is technically built by the port anyway, like I read ahead, restrooms.
Right.
The port built the restrooms under port budgets. We use this to upgrade, keep them open longer. How do we address the public when they say, oh, that's the job in? Why are you using this foundation to do work that you should have already budgeted and that's in your remit anyway? I don't know how to respond to that.
I think that's a great question, and I think that's a question that the Port and the Port Foundation need to work through and figure out is, would the bathrooms then be something that is being dropped from the Port budget due to no longer having toll revenue? I mean, it's one of those, there's that fine line of where does the foundation come in to cover things that the Port should be doing? To me, that's a Port of Hood River and a foundation discussion. That's not my decision to make.
No, I'm
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
I'm asking everybody to think about how would we respond to that question? And then the secondary question, let's say that we take on the restrooms. The foundation does something to the restrooms. 2 years later, the Port does something to the restrooms. Do we have a problem there when we commingle?
I feel like the foundation is gonna be, starting off being more, maintenance focused on the bathrooms and not actually structurally focused. And I think we justify it by saying, well, have you noticed the bathrooms are often closed because the Port just doesn't have it in the budget for the waterfront to keep it open. And with the tolls going away, we're trying to find a way to improve the beauty, safety, accessibility, and we're trying to do it in a new way for you. This is what we're doing.
So
for
let's
the community.
continue that a little bit. So let's say that's what we do, and the foundation pays for maintenance at least for a year or 2 years. And they no longer do it. Now the Port comes back in and we figured out how to find some money to do that maintenance. Do we have a problem in that intersection?
I don't think so, because I feel like it's a project that maybe there's a start and end time. The money comes in, we're like, okay, the foundation has enough funds to do the maintenance on the bathrooms for a year or one season or whatever it is. I think there can be parameters that would allow it to go back and forth if the foundation completes their project.
Okay, and then kind of the follow on here, I'm seeing all kinds of little. So we do that. The foundation pays for maintenance, cleaning of the restroom that is done by Ryan's people on the Port.
I think what it is done by is not Ryan's people, because if he had the time to do it, he'd be doing it. I feel like it would be through, like, did you ever talk to Paul Jones with his sanitation? He said he could take over all of our bathrooms.
Okay.
Maybe it's hiring,
Well,
I've heard the name.
it's really a segmentation question.
Yeah.
I think
Once we start, you gotta keep it separated from the Port
Until the project's finished.
Yeah.
until the project
And
is finished.
because we're only funding through however the mechanism is, if it's the license plates or donations or what,
So
we're
that,
funding projects.
so that donation is gonna come into the Port CFO books.
No, the
Port
foundation.
The foundation, are we gonna go hire another Debbie?
So Mike, I think I can answer that. You're asking really good sort of category questions.
Yeah.
And I think you have a comprehensive answer for it.
Okay.
The way that adjunct foundations like this work, like the school district has, for instance, it allows a vehicle for people and not-for-profits to donate money to the entity through a different channel. So having the foundation allows people to say, okay, it really, the thing that it allows, we do not have the capacity to otherwise do, it allows a not-for-profit to make a donation. Okay, because an individual can donate money to a government like the Port and have it be earmarked. That's something they can do, and they can write it off in their taxes, yada, yada, yada. They can also do it through the foundation. And people might be more comfortable doing it through a 501c3. So that was sort of the big goal, but it was really to allow not-for-profits. So there are grant opportunities and exciting things going on there. The only stipulation for the foundation is that the money has to be used for what it is earmarked for. there's no problem with the port. The port will be doing the work, right? So if let's say there's a not-for-profit and they give $10,000 to the foundation and they say, we want this money to be earmarked for bathroom maintenance. And the port says, all right, we're gonna take that $10,000 and we're gonna do the proper accounting to show that we paid it to, and they could be our own employees, it's fine. We clean the bathrooms beyond and above what we would be normally doing. That's all that's necessary.
Yeah,
There's
but
no.
I think we're gonna have to be squeaky clean is on
Yes.
your side. We just talked about this indirect overhead kind of charge that gets spread out. Okay, to me,
Mhm.
we're gonna get audited
Right.
in this thing. So that charge out policy has, to me, has to be clearly written out, approved by both boards, and then we have to religiously follow it. If we're charging something back to this,
Correct.
to this work.
And then in this meeting, what we're doing is adopting a mission statement.
No, I understand, but I want to make sure that I understand how this thing's gonna kind of work
Yep.
for the mission statement, because I can see the mission statement very quickly coming back from the public that says, wait a minute,
Yeah,
all this stuff you're doing with the port, where are you changing it?
It's
well, I think a
cool.
great example is looking at education foundations. Our local school district has one, they're all over the place, and what, to Heather's point, is they're tasked with funding projects. The projects are specific. And, you know, so if the project is bathroom maintenance for 1 year, that's the project. And then,
the stakeholder group that we met with, we tried to take people from a lot of different walks that are all invested in the community. Nobody said, well, why are you doing this? Why isn't the port? They were all very positive, like, oh, this is great. There are so many projects we can see this foundation funding that would really improve the port's properties for the community.
Well, that's good, that's good.
Yeah,
I'm just suggesting that as this thing matures a little bit more, we gotta educate the community more. First of all, we gotta
Yeah,
educate ourselves.
and our board needs to be educated more also.
Right.
And I think that
process.
we're just getting started.
It's the process. Okay, so that being the case, is it safe to assume that we could move to adopt a mission statement for the Port of Hood River Foundation specifically relating to the waterfront arm?
I made a motion.
Okay,
I'll second
okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
it.
Aye. Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Goss, the project list, we kind of went over that a little bit.
I went over that, I'll give a little bit more clarity. So part of the need for having kind of a couple specific projects in mind or ideas to work for is for if the foundation decides to move forward with a license plate project, to have specific projects in order to help market the plate and so that people know what they're funding. Like they get excited about specific projects, trying to find projects that not only are relevant to locals and tourists, people that consider Hood River their home, but people in the state that would want this plate, kind of finding overarching projects that would also kind of meet those little heartstrings. So we came up with two in the stakeholder group, kind of the two main things that kept coming up. The common themes were the waterfront public facilities, restrooms, and the need for restrooms that are open longer, that are clean, and we need, they're just not, they can't keep up with the amount of people that are visiting, especially in the off season. One of the director of Parks and Rec, I think, said it best when he said you should never have an outhouse or porta potty in front of an actual bathroom. And everybody unanimously agreed to that. So thinking of things like keeping the bathrooms open as long as we can, winterizing when we need to, making sure that if we have to have porta potties because of the amount of people that are coming, that they are emptied on a more regular basis, so that we're not getting complaints about those. Things like making sure that there are baby changing stations available. A couple of the programs that specifically deal with youth in the community that are growing in number every year talked about having changing areas. They don't have to be crazy indoor buildings, but safe and accessible changing areas for kids. You know, you go down, a lot of people who live the water recreation lifestyle don't mind changing wetsuits in a parking lot, but a lot of kids aren't super into that. So finding safe spaces for kids to change that are near kind of where Wild Wind Water is and the Gorge Sailing Group. And then also, I thought one of the best things that came up was one of the stakeholders just said, you know, the waterfront area is the crown jewel of the river, and it should look and feel like that. And I think having, I don't know, as a woman and mom, I judge every place I go based on their facilities. If it's dirty, I'm not going back. If it's not, doesn't feel safe for my kids, I'm not going back. So I think having restroom facilities that meet just those bare minimums is a great starting project that the community could get behind. On a more statewide level, I think waterfront safety and education were also a common theme. This river gets busy. It is a river. It can be dangerous. And a lot of people that visit do not know either of those things. There are already life jacket stations, but we would love to see them very utilized. We'd like to make sure that there are a lot of life jackets available. There's more signage. I know at Frog Beach, there's some good drop-offs right there. There's a lot of moving people and watercraft in Nickel Basin, having some good signage and good information about how to use those spaces safely. And then alongside working with, you know, maybe we team up with organizations like Fiona Wilds to help with water safety, or we work together with the pool to get grants for free swim lessons or something. There's a way to also be very involved in the community through water safety outreach. So those are the two big projects that the stakeholders all kind of kept coming back to that Heather and I thought would be a really great starting point for the foundation, the waterfront specific foundation.
Yeah, another one that was really big with the stakeholders was just beautification projects. Just landscaping and walkways and all the things that make the waterfront park amazing. And continuing that through like the Ports waterfront area.
And that's such a great one, as well as, you know, again, you talk about just exposure and all of that, and what are the projects. I mean, that project wouldn't necessarily take a lot of money per se, because there's so many volunteers that would do it, but the organization of getting a volunteer group, getting the right paperwork, getting the right just whatever, that is a wonderful one-day project for the foundation to take on as a beach cleanup day. Alleviate staff from part of it, and so yeah, I think this is great. You guys are on to a great start here.
How about maybe another one? You got me started thinking.
I know. We've been on a rabbit trail on these.
At Trace Cities, company I work for donated a playground of dreams.
Okay.
And we bought all the material, brought in all the heavy equipment, but a lot of employees came out to help put it together, but a lot of local people came out as
They did that with the children's park.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking down there on the green, is there a place that we would want to develop into a kind of a playground for little kids as their parents are enjoying?
I think adding playgrounds there is never anyone that is against adding play space generally in a community. I think we could even level up and say we want it to be accessible. We want it to be something that kids with mobility devices could use, because there aren't really any of those in the river.
Yeah.
It would definitely be, and there would be grants available for that.
I think this is a great working start of, you know, I think it's always good to start small and over deliver than to have this giant project list and then fail miserably at it. So
Yeah.
I, for one, think this is a great way to start educating the public and to have it clear and concise. This is project A that we're doing.
So what I would suggest that you add to 1 and 2, and then you want to go 3, 4, 5, 6.
So we can make a larger list.
Whatever we do here, we need to know how much money are we talking?
Yeah,
That's next step.
yes,
So-
that would be the next step. And Heather and I even talked about with the bathroom, it would be kind of creating even like a 5-year plan of what it would look like, what gets improved every year. A lot of,
biggest complaints I hear is that, my gosh, you guys spend money to put a porta potty
yeah,
in front of both doors.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And then they don't keep it open long enough in the season because people use them. They'd like to see them year round.
yes.
And
Especially in the marina.
yeah, I can't blame them.
Yeah.
So maybe a subset to this is determining, okay, what's the season?
Exactly.
And trying to expand it as far as you can.
And figuring out when we look at winterizing, we close bathrooms, I think in October, bathrooms get winterized generally. Is there money that needs to be put into those structures to help them winterize to be open later?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, that's money that the foundation could work on providing.
Yeah, so
That'd be
what
part of the project.
modifications would you have to make
Exactly,
to ideally keep it open year round?
exactly. I think that'd be step 1 of the project is we're looking for clean and year round.
Great start.
And the third one is artwork process.
You want to go ahead and reserve motion in a second?
Oh, we have to do a motion?
I think so.
For the project.
Oh, approve the list.
I would move that we adopt items 1 and 2. But add to it the estimated cost per year to achieve both of these. And make a motion that we proceed forward with it. Is that what you need?
So the move would be to approve the project list for the Port Hood River Foundation with some additional financial information.
Yeah, there you go.
Second.
All in favor?
Teamwork makes the dream work. And then the last one is gonna be the artwork process.
And this is very similar to what we discussed at the last foundation meeting, that timeline that we went through. This is just a reshifting of the timeline based on putting kind of a pin in things until we decided on mission statement and project list. So this timeline is based upon the approval of those 2 things. And then we would move forward with approving the $1,000 award money for the artwork contest. And then the timeline is set out similar to before. And it is very variable because I cannot control the DMV. So all of these timelines are very subject to change. So the total cost that you see in there, the estimated for this budget for this year may not actually hit this year. That's all going to depend on how approvals go. This is if we manage to get this done without a lot of hiccups, which would be the hope. And we also have to remember that when we pay that 71,000 startup production cost to the DMV, once you have paid that, you then turn in your 3,000 vouchers and the money that you've collected from those vouchers. And then once things have been, production's going, they give you some of that back.
25
Based-
grand, right?
Well, it's all dependent on how much it costs to produce everything. All of the license plates, and I don't know exact production costs right now because as we've all discussed, numbers are very fluctuating greatly right now. So it depends on at that time what production costs are for the DMV. But then we do get $35 from those plates that we've submitted to the DMV, they give it back to us. So it's kind of a give it, get it back situation once all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
You said $35 per plate?
Yeah.
So that's 105 grand.
Yeah, that you get back after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and so then we come back to the question, what's the likelihood of getting 3,000 plates?
I think that depends on the 2 projects that we've picked. Water safety is, I mean, that's a great one, I think. And the bathrooms, I think a lot of it depends on what the plate looks like. And that's gonna depend on kind of what the artwork looks like. And yeah, it's really all about what the public is passionate about at the time. The B license plate sold 3,000 vouchers in 2 weeks.
I went and got one, I think I'm number 47.
Yeah,
I didn't even know at the time
Yeah,
that there was a foundation behind it or where that money was
you
going.
got it because it was cool
It
looking.
looked cool.
Got
I was-
bees.
I think most people,
Yeah.
I think it's looking at the artwork and what it looks like. and what we say.
Yeah.
I think it's worth the gamble, so.
Too.
I mean, there are quite a few license plates that are actually being reworked, like they've gone back and redesigned them and are issuing them again. And I don't think they'd be spending the time doing that if it wasn't paying off for the organization personally. And OSU just released 2 more, a crab and a shark.
Next.
Well, could we go ahead and hold the competition for the artwork
That's what she
and
wants.
hold off starting the actual plate itself, commit with the DMV
Yes.
till we see what kind of artwork we get and then we'll make a
Yes.
judgment call.
And all the artwork language will be, it may be used. This artwork may be used as a license plate. It's not going to promise the person that their art will become a license plate. It will also give us the ability to digitally alter things as we need.
And it's my understanding that we can't actually apply until we have the artwork anyway, right?
Yeah, you gotta have artwork, before you don't wanna send them $5,000, you not have your art kind of figured out yet.
So my recommendation on the motion is to adjust it into a 2-phase.
Okay,
Phase 1 is go ahead and do the artwork competition. And we bring the winner back to the commission. And then we make the decision to proceed forward in the second phase, which is, the bigger money.
perfect. Yeah, gives you time to fine tune the artwork to make sure it's eye-catching and love it.
Maybe I misunderstand this, but I felt like that was included in this because in July it's finalized design.
Yeah.
There's a process of finalization in there.
I'm just saying, we ought to have 2 real whole points.
I
One
see what you're
is
saying.
get the
Yeah.
design done. We look at it, make the decision to release for.
So that would be approving the $1,000 for the artwork prizes and then holding off on approving the rest of the funds until after that. I think
That works
Mr.
for
Fox is
You in your.
That works for me. Yep, I can keep changing the timeline as we go. Living history, it's fine.
Would you like to make that motion to $1,000 for the artwork competition?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And before you gavel out of the foundation meeting, do you want there to be a recommendation of the Port Commission on the 99,000 as far as a budget point? You don't have to spend the 99,
Placeholder.
that placeholder.
Oh, we actually gotta do, yeah,
Yes.
the 1,000 immediate
Yes,
and the 98 shortly
Placeholder.
thereafter.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Gretchen.
Thank you.
And then with that, the foundation meeting is now adjourned and we will convene regular session. 5 minutes to,
Good catch.
Yeah, I need to switch it out, so.
okay, as soon as Patty is ready to switch out. Online viewers, you'll be disconnected and let's reconnect using the same